Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. Tang Dynasty. Starting with a loser, Li Er's mentality collapses. Li Xuanyu travels through the Tang Dynasty world and becomes an inconspicuous prince, only to activate the strongest playboy system at the beginning. As long as the family is a loser, as long as they are arrogant, they can become infinitely stronger. So Li Xuanyu began his arrogant journey. Angry criticism towards ministers, various types of despicable behavior, has shattered Li Er's mentality. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 001 is completely portrayed in her true colors, there is no need for any. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Xuanyu suddenly opened his eyes and looked around with a bewildered expression. Ah! Where is this? Is it filming? At this moment, a large amount of unfamiliar memories suddenly flooded into Li Xuanyu's mind. Immediately made Li Xuanyu have a splitting headache. It took about an hour for Li Xuanyu to fully accept this unfamiliar memory. Unexpectedly, labor and capital have traveled across. According to the original owner's memory, the original owner of his current body is called Li Ku, who is the third son of Li Shimin. At this moment, in the Xianjing Hall, a man wearing an imperial robe with a very brave face was sitting upright on the dragon throne. I'm going. Is this the person in front of me, Emperor Taizong Li Shimin? He looks really domineering. Li Xuanyu, it should be said that it was Li Ku now. After a while, he finally reacted and exclaimed in surprise, I am now the son of Li Shimin. However, based on one's own understanding of history and the memory of the original owner, it is not difficult to find that he was not valued by his own Emperor Laozi. Of course, the reason for pursuing it is that Li Ku's birth mother was a princess from the former Sui dynasty, so he suffered great discrimination in the inheritance of his bloodline. In addition, he was secretly suppressed by high-ranking officials such as Changsun Wuji in the court. So, as a dignified prince, he has only become a petty official in the court, and the key is that every time he goes to court, he can only stand on the sidelines, ultimately leading to a situation where no one takes him seriously or pays attention. Although Li Ku did not hate Li Er in front of him in his heart, there was indeed no emotional connection between the two. But at that moment, a cold voice suddenly rang in Li Ku's ear. Congratulations to the host for successfully binding to the strongest playboy system. As long as you continue to waste recklessly, you can earn corresponding playboy points, which can be used for system lottery or store purchases. The strongest playboy system. Upon hearing this name, Li Ku was immediately excited. As a fan of online literature, he had already guessed the rules of his own system as soon as he heard its name, which was nothing more than transforming into the most powerful playboy. You should know that he is the son of the current emperor, so there is absolutely no problem in this regard. The labor-intensive prince can still be called a prince without being arrogant, indulging in food, drink, and entertainment. This is simply his dream life. It can be said that the performance is completely authentic and does not require any rehearsals. Just as I was thinking about it, the eunuch's sharp voice suddenly rang out in the hall. Please let the Turkic envoy enter the main hall to meet you. As the eunuch finished speaking, a special envoy with a dark appearance, a big beard, and dressed in people's clothing walked in from outside the main hall. After entering, the envoy placed his hand on his chest and bowed. The Turkic Jeli Khan pays his respects to the Emperor of Tang. Li Er on the dragon chair nodded at the sight and said, Jeli Khan and my Tang dynasty are also old friends. I remember during the time of Wuda, there was trade between the Turkic people and our Tang dynasty, and this is also the case now. This time, I will send you some of the best silk, satin, and ceramics from the Tang dynasty. At the same time, I will also greet the Khan of Jili on my behalf. Surprisingly, the envoy in front of him did not express gratitude as Li Shimin had said. As you said, the esteemed Heavenly Khan has always had a good relationship with the Tang dynasty. Therefore, our Jeli Khan wants to make our relationship better. He sent me this time to marry Princess Changle of the Tang Dynasty. Also, how much dowry will the Tang Dynasty prepare for Princess Changle? As soon as the envoy spoke, Li Er's expression froze instantly. At this moment, the entire hall is also silent, and it can be said that needles are falling. Li Er could never have imagined that the envoy sent by the Turkic Jeli Khan this time was completely a trap. What made Li Er even more intolerable was that Jeli Khan was so bold that even his favorite Princess Changle of the Tang Dynasty dared to have an idea. After all, there were a few people in the Tang Dynasty who were not clear about it. The gentle and quiet Princess Changle was the most favored daughter of his Tang Emperor Li Er. Li Er can be said to hold Princess Changle in his palm. At this moment, the civil and military officials glanced at each other and felt speechless. At this moment, the courtiers were also intimidated by the arrogance of this Turkic person. Only then did everyone suddenly realize. It turns out that the Turkic people sent envoys this time also saw that their Tang dynasty strength had not fully recovered, so they dared to make such a fierce move. Through the so-called alliance, he was not only able to marry a princess from the Tang dynasty, but also could directly demand a large amount of wealth from the Tang dynasty as her dowry in the name of the alliance. But what infuriated everyone was that the marriage partner chosen by the other party was actually Princess Changle, who was only 14 years old. You should know that Li Er's favorite is Princess Changle. So this is simply a challenge for red fruit in the Tang dynasty. Sure enough, when the Turkic envoy revealed his true intention for this trip, Li Er's face instantly became ugly and sank. At the same time, a cold light flashed in his eyes, staring coldly at the Turkic man. And Li Er's cold gaze was like a sharp knife, piercing through his heart. At this moment, Li Er's imperial aura was also fully displayed. At this moment, the Turkic man was shivering all over and couldn't help feeling uncomfortable. At this moment, although the envoy had already been frightened, he still mustered the courage to hold back his trembling body and try to appear calm now. As Li Er's face changed, the entire hall was also completely silent at this moment. In this atmosphere, Qing Yaojin, who has an upright personality, definitely cannot sit idly by. 002 doesn't need to be chosen at all, I definitely have both. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Then he walked out first and shouted sternly, "What exactly do you Turks want to do? This is clearly an insult to our Tang dynasty. Do you think that there are no more people in our Tang dynasty? Immediately bring a message back to your Khan. Just say that there are still a few old men in our Tang dynasty, and you will definitely not let the Turks trample on me for half of Chang'an." As Qing Yaojin's words fell, Wei Qijingde and Qin Xiong on the side also agreed, "That's right. With us old men in the Tang dynasty, we definitely won't sit idly by. Let your little Turks dare to act recklessly in the Tang dynasty." Qing Yaojin had a straightforward personality, and although he had suffered many losses, he was still able to firmly sit on the fishing platform in court, thanks to his empathy with Li Er. After Qing Yaojin said this, he also directly mentioned Li Er's intentions. Directly express what Li Er is thinking in his heart. Li Er originally thought that this envoy should have some reservations in front of Qing Yaojin. The words that didn't bite the gold during the process didn't shake the Turkic person at all, on the contrary, this guy's expression became even calmer. Wei Jeli Khan knew that the emperor of Tang dynasty loved Princess Changle the most, so he also guessed that the emperor would definitely not want Princess Changle to marry into the Turks. Therefore, our Jeli Khan's 100,000 personal soldiers are currently in Chang'an to show their appreciation for this marriage alliance. In a few days, they will march to the imperial city and personally marry Princess Changle of the Tang dynasty. At this moment, the Turkic person deliberately emphasized the tone above the four words, 100,000 personal soldiers. There are only two options left in front of Li Er now. One is to marry. So that 100,000 soldiers come to welcome Princess Changle. The second is not to marry. So under the command of 100,000 soldiers, they will directly attack Chang'an. Obviously, the other party is full of threats this time. Just when everyone heard that Jelly Khan led his elite soldiers to kill Changan. What are you saying? You Western barbarians are really so brave. Instantly caused a huge sensation. Seeing this, Li gave a glance, and then a eunuch next to him immediately understood his meaning. Silence. Then Li slowly stood up and looked at the Turkic people in front of him in the hall. With a mocking expression on his face, he asked, Turkic people, can I understand that you are threatening me? If that's the case, your Khan really plans to invade the Tang Dynasty. Even with tens of thousands of elite troops, I think this is about half of your troops. Upon hearing this, the Turkic man had a guilty expression on his face and dared not confront Li's eagle-like gaze. Then he forced out a smile and said with a stiff mouth, these personal soldiers are just the troops and horses that my Khan used to welcome them. Our truly elite Turkic army has not yet moved. Upon hearing these words, Li shouted loudly, what a joke. What kind of nonsense welcoming team needs to hire 100,000 soldiers? Can't the Turks treat me as an idiot? I don't think this is a marriage alliance, it's clearly a robbery. To be honest, although Li may not be considered a tyrant, he is definitely not a kind-hearted man who believes in women. For those meritorious ministers, Li is often magnanimous and very gentle. But if you think Li is easy to bully, then you are completely wrong. After all, during the Xuanwu Gate Rebellion, Li stepped on the bodies of his brothers and ascended to the throne. Although he can let go of his position and pray for mercy for those officials who have made mistakes, he is also willing to go on a hunger strike to pray for forgiveness from heaven. However, a ruthless person has reached the extreme. Even if it were against his two biological brothers, Li would not hesitate to kill them. So at this moment, facing the unreasonable conditions proposed by the Turkic envoy, Li finally showed his cruelty in anger. After Li caught fire, it was definitely more terrifying than a fierce tiger. As the scene in the main hall became uncontrollable, the courtiers in the hall quickly dissuaded, Your Majesty, calm down. At this moment, Changsun Wuji, who had been silent beside him, suddenly stood up. I saw Changsun Wuji holding down Li and then lowering his voice, saying to him, Your Majesty, please take a moment to calm down. Although those Turkic barbarians may seem despicable, our city of Chang'an is currently understaffed. If it really angers the Jelly Khan, what will they do when they attack Chang'an? Emperor, I don't think you really want Chang'an to become a ruin. At this moment, Changsun Wuji's words instantly poured cold water on Li's head, and then calmed his originally angry eyes. That's right, Li is not only the father of Princess Changle, but also the emperor of the entire Tang Dynasty. As the ruler of a country, Li cannot ignore his own people. At least Li would not gamble with the lives of the people. In the past, Li was only fearless when he was the king of Qin. So in the Battle of Hulagwan, he only had 3,500 Xuanjia soldiers at that time, but he could defeat Dojianda's 100,000 troops. And it's a perfect victory. But now, as the emperor of the Tang Dynasty, he must not be so impulsive. I saw Li Erqiang holding back his anger and finally trying to calm his emotions. However, the anger on Li's face gradually turned into helplessness and patience. And all of this was seen by the Turkic person. He, the emperor of the Tang Dynasty, is nothing more than that. Our Khan is right. You Central Plains people are really as timid as mice, and you don't even have the strength to fight back, so you can only wait to be slaughtered. The envoy's disdain for the people of the Central Plains in the Tang Dynasty grew even more when he thought of this. At this moment, Li Ku witnessed the entire process from the audience. At this moment, a cold voice came into Li Ku's ear. Detected the current situation of the host, and now the strongest playboy system is releasing new tasks. Task 1. Publicly rebuke Changsun Wuji and accuse him of being greedy for life and afraid of death. Success reward. You can get a chance to draw a special unit. System 2. Directly kill the Turks and promote the power of our Tang Dynasty. Reward. Get 100 dandy points, which can be used in the store. Seeing this, Li Ku pursed his lips and said, there's no need to choose at all. I definitely want both. Is my man from the Tang Dynasty so useless? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. At this moment, Li Er is sitting on the dragon chair, in a dilemma. If it were other princesses, then Li Er might really resort to violence and marry the Turkic people for the sake of stability in the Tang Dynasty. But this time it happened to be his favorite Changle. So Li Er's heart can be said to be in excruciating pain. But for the safety of the Tang Dynasty, as the ruler of a country, Li Er knows he has no other choice. Just as Li Er was thinking of agreeing, a voice suddenly came from below. What are you joking about? This is completely a big trick of sliding the world. When will I need to use a princess and marriage from a country to stabilize the country like the Tang Dynasty? At this moment, everyone followed the sound to look. And at this moment, the speaker turned out to be the Shu King Li Ku, who had no sense of existence in his daily life. At this moment, all the civil and military officials in the court were frightened by Li Ku's voice. Even Li Er on the dragon chair is no exception. Li Er looked strange and said, Ku Er has a relatively weak temperament on weekdays. Why are you so bold today? At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through Li Er's mind, and in the end, he couldn't help but mutter to himself, has Ku Er always been hiding and not revealing herself in her daily life? Li Ku ignored the surprise of the people around him and then said to himself, isn't my man from the Tang Dynasty so useless that he can't even protect his own princess? Surprisingly, in order to maintain stability, we have to pay the price of a woman. This is truly tragic and lamentable. After speaking, Li Ku glanced at the civil and military affairs of the entire court again. Under Li Ku's very sharp gaze, the courtiers dared not look directly. Some of them felt a bit embarrassed by Li Ku's words, so they lowered their heads. Not bad, that's great. And among the generals led by the other side, one person stood up directly and shouted loudly, the third prince is right. Although I, Li Jing, am already over 50 years old and have killed countless enemies on the battlefield, I am not as brave as the young third prince. At this moment, everyone looked over and saw that the leader was undoubtedly their great Tang army god, Li Jing. Li Jing took a step forward directly, and then exuded a unique aura of fighting on the battlefield all over his body. After glancing around, he spoke up and said, thank you very much for the third prince's reminder. Since I am still a man from the Tang Dynasty, there is no need for a woman to stabilize the government. After all, I, Li Jing, do not want to be pointed at and criticized by others for being useless waste. As the commander.in.chief, Cheng Yao Jin, Wei Qi Jingda, Qin Xiong and others around Li Jing also agreed, what the old general said is absolutely true. We are all on the same wavelength as the old general, and we don't want to be called useless in the end. Seeing that the generals have all expressed their opinions, the other courtiers have also joined in. The third prince is right. I am willing to support you. What if he let his 100,000 soldiers kill us? How can we, the handsome men, be blocked by our flesh and blood, so that women can take risks for us? At this moment, the men of the Tang Dynasty were mobilized, each with a fearless attitude. Li Jing, after all, was a soldier with iron blood, so he felt the atmosphere of this moment. His whole body's blood boiled instantly and he shouted directly, the emperor is really a tiger father without a dog son. The Tang Dynasty's Weiwu emperors Wu Wei Shu King's Weiwu. Li Er on the dragon chair was very satisfied with his third son, Li Ku, as he listened to the praise given to him by the generals and ministers. However, at this moment, Li Ku's other brothers, including Prince Li Qingqian, Prince Wei Li Tai, and Prince Jin Li Ji, were all filled with a great sense of defeat in their hearts. You should know that all three of them are sons born to Empress Changsun, so they are deeply favored by the emperor. On the surface, he may appear polite to Li Ku, but in his heart, he is extremely contemptuous of him. However, today Li Ku's performance in the main hall severely suppressed the halo of the three of them, especially as the crown princely Qingqian, this time making him feel an indescribable crisis. Li Ku is clearly going to compete with him for the throne. And several ministers who disagreed with Changsun Wuji's political views on a regular basis also noticed this. It seems that another situation is about to emerge above this court. Before this, no matter how the other princes competed for power, they were still the son born to Empress Changsun, and could not escape from his Changsun family. So, they may be able to put their bets on the head of Shu King Li Ku. And Changsun Wuji, this cunning guy, also sensed a hint of something wrong. As the leader of the Changsun clan, he used to suppress Li Ku in every way to ensure that his position as the crown prince would not be replaced by his followers. But now, if Li Ku were to establish his power, the strength of the Changsun family would be greatly affected. In this situation, it must be something that Changsun Wuji cannot tolerate. So Changsun Wuji couldn't help but say, "Your Majesty, what I said to the king of Shu just now was a big mistake." After hearing Changsun Wuji's words, Li Er also felt a slight displeasure in his heart. How could Li Er, who harbors the heart of an emperor, not understand why Changsun Wuji has been suppressing Li Ku? Changsun Wuji's actions are nothing more than not wanting other princes to sit on this throne. Before this, Li Er also felt that Li Ku's place of origin was unknown and mediocre, making it difficult for him to take on a major role. But today Li Ku has a different aura than before. So Li Er wants to watch and see. Unexpectedly, this Changsun Wuji can't sit still now. But Changsun Wuji is his uncle and a high-ranking official in the court, so he still wants to sell some thin noodles. So Li Er patiently said, how do you say it? Upon hearing this, Changsun Wuji felt a hint of displeasure from Li Er's tone. However, he persisted and said, "Your Majesty, Princess Changle is the daughter of my younger sister, and I am her uncle. Of course, I don't want her to marry far away, but if we can prevent war in the Tang Dynasty and satisfy the Khan of the Turks, then I am willing. The key is that if Princess Changle knew that she was marrying for the peace of the Tang Dynasty, she would probably agree too. What qualifications do you have to mention that she should be involved in this marriage?" You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing what Changsun Wuji said, Li Ku's heart was filled with resentment. Changsun Wuji, this old man, is really shameless. I haven't even started with you yet, you've already come knocking on your door. This is what you brought on yourself. I won't be polite to you or anything. Then Li Ku took a step forward and his gaze fell on Changsun Wuji. He shouted sternly, "I see you're full of nonsense. I actually want to ask Changsun. Although my Changle sister is your niece, she is still the bloodline of the Li family. Even my father, the emperor, is reluctant to let Changle's sister marry out. He hasn't even nodded yet. You're just an uncle. What qualifications do you have to propose to her for this marriage, and have you ever consulted Changle's sister's opinion? And you are the uncle of Princess Changle, so how can you bear to send your niece to that place where birds don't poop?" Changsun Wuji seemed surprised that Li Ku dared to directly refute him. So he was stunned in place for a moment. Before he could say anything, Li Ku smiled again and said, "If Sister Changle finds out that you want to send her out, would she be sad about it? This is clearly going to kill people. Every word kills the heart." Li Ku showed no face at all, completely disregarding Changsun Wuji. After all, even as an emperor, Li Er still has to give Changsun Wuji some face. So no one expected that Li Ku would be so tough. Directly refusing to show the face of Captain Sun Wuji, the key is that this is simply cursing in person. Sure enough, when Changsun Wuji on the other side heard Li Ku's words, he almost didn't get angry directly. You should know that this is the first time he has been so humiliated by someone. At the same time, Changsun Wuji was also secretly shocked. This kid was suppressed to death by me in the past, and even had to retreat when he saw me. But today, why is his momentum so strong? Like a different person. At this moment, Changsun Wuji's heart was filled with shock, anger, and doubt, with various feelings constantly intertwined. His face was also constantly changing. Li Er was also very pleased to see Li Ku training Changsun Wuji for a moment. As the ruler of a country, Li Er had to humbly accept advice, and coupled with Changsun Wuji being his elder brother, even if his dissatisfaction with Changsun Wuji was not too obvious in his heart. So Li Ku's confrontation with Changsun Wuji this time was something that Li Er had always wanted to do but couldn't achieve. So now Li Er's heart is quite happy. Changsun Wuji, on the other hand, became angry with embarrassment and could no longer care about his dignity as a vassal. The only thought in Changsun Wuji's heart was to turn the tables against the wind. I think the king of Shu was wrong. Although Changle is only 14 years old this year, she is a very intelligent person. If she knew that this marriage could make the Tang Dynasty stronger, she would definitely agree. Upon hearing what Changsun Wuji said, Li Ku felt even more disgusted in his heart. So Li Ku immediately rebuked, "That's really nice to say, it's really grandiose. Isn't this clearly a moral kidnapping? If Changle doesn't go to the wedding, doesn't it mean she's not sensible? Hee, how unreasonable." Li Ku's face turned green and white when he scolded Changsun Wuji, and he was speechless. You. When did someone tell Changsun Wuji that he had taken the position of Prime Minister? But today Li Ku gave him a loud slap in the face. Congratulations to the host for successfully achieving their first goal. To publicly provoke Changsun Wuji. Task reward. You can draw a special unit at any time. Li Ku listened to the prompt sound in his mind at this moment and realized that his approach had been successful. The first task released by the system just now, the reward for the task is to draw a special unit. So next, Li Ku will complete the second task. Which is to kill the Turks, thinking that Li Ku no longer paid attention to Changsun Wuji, but quickly aimed at the Turkic man, his gaze fixed on a prey. Just a cold glance at the Turkic man. However, a killing intent suddenly arose in my heart. Faced with Li Ku's malicious gaze, the Turkic person also shuddered. You should know the scene when Li Ku angrily cursed Changsun Wuji. He witnessed it with his own eyes, and he never expected that this seemingly insignificant prince in front of him could possess such powerful strength. Then he felt a chill in his heart and involuntarily took a step back. At this moment, the Turkic man looked terrified. This guy is not a prince, he looks even more terrifying than the Turkic wolf pack. Seeing this, Li Ku did not hesitate and turned to Li Er in a loud voice, "I, the king of Shu, Li Ku, request that the emperor immediately execute this Turkic man to demonstrate the authority of Tang Dynasty." When the Turkic people heard Li Ku's request to execute themselves, they were instantly stunned. His feet are numb. You can't kill me. I work for the Jeli Khan. If you kill me, I will definitely make you pay for it with blood, and then Chang'an will be washed with blood. Hee, it's noisy. Li Ku did not pay attention to him. You know what he hates the most is this kind of guy who pretends to be a tiger. In Li Ku's eyes, the Turkic envoy in front of him was nothing but a joke. Why argue with a dog on your own? Isn't that the biggest trick in the world? Li Ku only gave him a cold glance, while the Turkic man was so scared that he couldn't speak. His body was also trembling like a cold cicada, afraid that if he said too much, Li Ku would really kill him directly. After hearing Li Ku's proposal to directly kill the Turks, Li Er's face couldn't help but look a bit ugly. Li Er really wanted to tear this rude Turkic person to pieces, but when he remembered that thousands of elite troops from the other side were heading towards the Tang Dynasty, a hint of unease rose in his heart. So when it came to my mouth, I swallowed it back. In my heart, my father will always. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Ku is very clear, how could Li Er not want to slaughter this Turkic person? The only problem is the fear of the Turkic Khanate's invasion, which will bring huge disasters to the Tang Dynasty. Now, he needs more means to use Li Er's power to kill the Western Turks. This method is spirit, a fire that establishes the national spirit of the Tang Dynasty. Thinking of this, Li Ke's gaze fell on Li Er. Then he pretended to be puzzled and asked, I have some doubts and would like to consult with my father. Li Er looked at Li Ke inexplicably, wondering which one was selling in his third prince's gourd. Kur, if you have any questions, it's okay to say so. Li Ke let out a deep cry, as if he had made a very important decision. What Li Ke is going to say next is definitely a thunderbolt that can shake the entire court. Li Ke asked seriously, I want to know where the king of Qin, who dared to confront a 100,000-strong army with 3,500 soldiers, has gone now. Father, if you weren't afraid of things because you're old. The eunuch next to him was also surprised. The eyes of the crowd towards Li Ke were filled with surprise and fear, as if they had seen something terrible. This is the court of the Tang Dynasty. Li Ke dared to ask Li Er such a question in front of the civil, military, and Turkic people of the Manchu dynasty. This is disrespectful. Qing Yaojin stared at Li Ke with a bewildered expression and said, damn it, this guy. Even Wei Zheng, known for his courage to speak, had a bewildered expression on his face. He was startled by Li Ke. Wei Zheng dared not touch Li Er's bottom line so blatantly. However, Li Ke's actions not only touched the dignity of the emperor, but also seemed to press him down and rub against the ground. He really doesn't take Li Er seriously. Rao, with Li Jing's composure, was also restless and couldn't help but worry about Li Ke. What is the third prince doing? How dare you insult the emperor in public? This is a heinous crime. In the main hall, there was silence. Yes, the officials all quieted down and were shocked by Li Ke's amazing words. Even Li Er was bewildered by what Li Ke said. But soon, Li Er's face became very ugly. Li Er shouted angrily, how dare you? Before Li Ke uttered that sentence, he anticipated how Li Er would react. Therefore, Li Ke was not afraid of Li Er's aura at all. He didn't dodge Li Er's gaze, but went straight towards him. 1 second, 5 seconds. Two people looked at each other, neither of them allowed. Seeing the scene deadlocked, Qing Yaojin, a rough man, quickly stepped forward to smooth the situation. Li Ke had previously taught Changsun Wuji a lesson and questioned Li Er's provocative behavior, which was very appealing to Qing Yaojin. So Qing Yaojin quickly stepped forward and said, Your Majesty, calm down. Why don't you let the third prince explain it clearly first? Don't misunderstand the third prince just because of your momentary anger. Li Er felt helpless when he saw Li Ke's unwavering appearance. Even if it's really disrespectful, at least it's still one's own biological son. Can it really be cut off? Now that Qing Yaojin took the initiative to give him a chance to step down, Li Er couldn't help but follow the trend. He waved his hand and said, Stop it. For the sake of Qing Qing's plea for you, I will give you this rebellious son a chance to speak. If you can't explain clearly, I will never spare you. Li Ke saw that he had already provoked Li Er and couldn't escape punishment, so he decided to completely let himself go. Don't spit or rush. Li Ke continued, Father, looking back, it was you who led these veteran generals to fight in the northwest for decades, defeated Dou Jianda, Lu Haida, Wang Shichong, and also defeated the Turks. You worked hard to conquer the country and created the Tang Dynasty. Why can Tang people straighten their waists no matter where they are? That's because we all know very well that our current peace was bought with the blood of our ancestors, and we have never been afraid of the Turkic people. But now, why did our Tang dynasty bow down to a mere Turkic and seek peace from them? I would like to ask my father, where is the once majestic and imposing Taiyan's general now? Changsun Wuji wished he could earn back the face he had lost before. Now that he heard Li Ke questioning Li Er, he immediately spoke up, King of Shu, you really don't understand the emperor's good intentions. The emperor's actions are completely for the sake of the peace and prosperity of the people of the Tang dynasty. As the emperor's son, you need to understand the emperor more. How can you always be right with him? Changsun Wuji was cunning, while striking at Li Ku, he never forgot to praise Li Er. His words gave Li Er a legitimate excuse to send Changle out for marriage. Li Ku was well aware that Changsun Wuji was the biggest competitor in the battle to seize the throne. However, Li Ku today is not the former king of Shu. Nowadays, no matter who provokes him, he will make the other party pay 10 times the price. Li Ku turned his head to look at Changsun Wuji and said, "You're going too far. My father is now the ruler of the Tang Dynasty and must seek the well-being of the people of the Tang Dynasty. In my mind, my father will always be an emperor." Li Er was stunned by Li Ku's praise. However, Li Ku's voice suddenly changed and turned to Li Er, saying, "But father, why don't you ask us, Tang Dynasty men, are they willing to bow down to the Turks for a comfortable day? Father, do you really think that we Tang people will give up our dignity for temporary peace? We Tang people don't need to bow down. The greedy wolf's heart never stops. If you give way today, he will force you to give way 2 steps tomorrow. The Tang Dynasty dares to wield its sword and let the Turks know that our Tang men's momentum has not dissipated, which is the true Tang Dynasty we founded." These words, Li Ku shouted with all his strength. Deafening. Relieved Qi. Leaving aside what those princes and generals were like, even Li Er was now intimidated by the aura emanating from Li Ku's body. Li Er remained silent, and at this moment, Li Ku's words echoed repeatedly in his mind. Tang Dynasty cannot be greedy for life and afraid of death. Li Er's heart moved and he couldn't help but murmur softly, "Is it true that I'm really afraid?" Li Ku's words have boosted the spirits of all the veteran generals who have experienced countless battles. At this moment, everyone was full of imaginations, as if returning to the past, with horses treading on the barracks and fighting on the battlefield. When they followed King Qin to establish the country, they only hoped to obtain more military achievements. How could they be as stable as they are now? Now hearing Li Ku's words, they couldn't help but ask themselves, have they been accustomed to a comfortable life, that's why they are so greedy and afraid of death? You should know that soldiers wandering on the brink of life and death, if they are greedy for life and afraid of death, are undoubtedly doomed to die. 006, I have a sentence that I can't hold back anymore. I must say it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qing Yao Jin was the first to come to his senses and said, "Your Majesty, what the third prince said is absolutely right. For the sake of considering every word and sentence of the third prince for the Tang Dynasty, I hope you will forgive me." Don't be fooled by Qing Yao Jin's rough appearance, but in reality, Qing Yao Jin is a cunning guy. Otherwise, he could not have been crowned as a prince, let alone become Li Er's confidant. Even cunning individuals like Changsun Wuji often fail to gain any benefits from Qing Yao Jin. Li Er is a wise ruler, not a foolish ruler. He won't argue over trivial matters. Not only that, Li Er's previous rude remarks towards Li Ku not only dissipated his anger, but also showed great satisfaction with Li Ku's courage to speak up, giving him a feeling that his own son could stand out. Now, Qing Yao Jin intercedes for Li Ku, which gives Li Er an excuse to spare Li Ku. Li Er pretended to be angry and said to Li Ku, "If it weren't for Duke Lu pleading for you, I would definitely punish you today." Li Ku couldn't help but laugh as he looked at Li Er's proud and coquettish appearance. On the surface, he still pretended, "Thank you for your forgiveness, father." The Turkic person across from him heard these words clearly and knew that he might not live long. He took advantage of everyone's unpreparedness and wanted to escape from the main hall. The guards at the door immediately caught him and dragged him back to the main hall. Li Er saw the fallen Turkic envoy and remembered Li Ku's words, making a decision in his heart. "Someone, drag this envoy down and chop off his head." "Your Majesty, there has never been a reason to kill envoys when 2 countries go to war," Changsun Wuji hurriedly advised. "And the Turkic Khan has already led tens of thousands of elite troops all the way north, and it won't be long before they arrive in Chang'an. Is it? Chang Sun Wuji hesitated to speak, but was stopped by Li Er's gesture and said, "Don't talk about auxiliary machinery. I have my own way. Since the Turks wanted to propose to Changle, I have wanted to dismember him in countless ways. It is not feasible to treat this belligerent Turkic person in a literary way, and absolute force must be used to make them convinced. If we coexist peacefully with these greedy Turks, the first thing we need to do is to let them know that our Tang dynasty is not so easy to bully, only then can we have the right to negotiate. So this Turkic envoy, make a decisive decision." Li Er made the final decision. Chang Sun Wuji felt like he had been stuffed with a dead fly when Li Er said so. This means that Li Er has fallen towards the king of Shu, which made Chang Sun Wuji feel a strong sense of defeat. Chang Sun Wuji knew that he had really been tricked by the king of Shu. Li Er ignored Sun Wuji, the prime minister, but turned his head to look at Qianyue beside him and asked, "What are you still doing? Is my decree useless?" Qianyue looked at Li Er with a shocked expression, unable to show any negligence. 2,000 ox guards walked over and pulled the Turkic man outside the main hall. No matter how hysterical the Turkic pleaded, Li Er did not respond. "No, no, I am the special envoy of the Turkic Khagan. You Tang people cannot kill me. If you dare to kill me, Tujiali Khan will definitely not let you go. Within 10 days, the Turkic people will surely raze your Chang'an to the ground." Outside the door, Qianyue raised his big knife in his hand. That Turkic person never knew why he died until his death. He doesn't know what kind of person he has offended. The people of Central Plains are not sheep that can be slaughtered by anyone. If you don't take the Tang dynasty seriously, there will only be a dead end. At the moment when the envoy was killed, Li Ku also received a message from the system. Ding! Congratulations to the host, the mission to kill the Turkic people has been successful. 100 dandy points will enter your account, and you can make purchases in the system store. Li Ku knew that he had more chips in his hands to deal with the rapidly changing court situation. Just as Li Ku was counting the rewards, Cheng Yaojin had an idea. Cheng Yaojin saw that Li Er had easily let go of Li Ku, and immediately understood Li Er's true thoughts. "Your Majesty, I have a sentence that I can't hold back anymore. I must say it." Li Er frowned with a hint of anger in his voice and said, "You little nigger, you don't usually talk so much. Why have you become so talkative today?" Li Er didn't really want to blame Cheng Yaojin, everyone knew it was just a joke between Li Er and his confidant. Faced with Li Er's anger, Cheng Yaojin only showed a simple and sincere smile. "Your Majesty, what I want to say is that the actions of the King of Shu today are truly like your style back then. He is truly a good son born to you. His outstanding performance today should be rewarded with a certain title." Li Er's face changed slightly, but soon calmed down. Li Er put away his original teasing and stared seriously at Cheng Yaojin. As the ruler of a country, Li Er naturally knew what a minister, especially someone of high authority like Cheng Yaojin, was thinking in front of everyone to demand a title for a prince. This indicates that he is going to stand in line. It can be seen from this that Cheng Yaojin has great expectations for Li Ku. The other ministers were also looking at Cheng Yaojin with an incredulous gaze at the moment. The ministers were aware that the Changsun Wuji faction wanted to recruit Cheng Yaojin, but he was rejected by Cheng Yaojin. The ministers were all thinking to themselves that this old man Cheng, in order to prove his support for Li Ku, dared to offend auxiliary machines like Captain Sun Wuji. With Cheng Yaojin's words, Changsun Wuji couldn't sit still and stared at Cheng Yaojin with a resentful expression on his face. At this moment, Changsun Wuji kept shouting in his heart. "Cheng Yaojin, you cunning and cunning old man. I kindly invited you to join the camp but refused. Now you're doing well and pretending to be garlic in front of me." However, Cheng Yaojin seemed to have not seen Changsun Wuji's anger, just calmly touched his nose. Li Er is also very satisfied with Li Ku's performance today. Therefore, even if Chen Yaojin doesn't say anything, he will gradually delegate power to Li Ku and let him hone. However, if the matter of conferring titles was proposed by Chen Yaojin, it would be completely different. 007 Husband, do you think Changle is really incurable? You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the ruler of a country, Li Er is well aware that if he rewards Li Ku according to Chen Yaojin's request, it means that Li Er does not oppose Chen Yaojin's stance on Li Ku, assuming that Li Ku is a person with the potential to inherit the throne. But the position of the crown prince is fundamental to the country, and Li Er can only treat it with caution. After all, there are so many tragedies happening in this world to compete for the throne, and even a slight mistake can lead to the downfall of a country. Now Li Er has not made up his mind and can only vaguely say, let's talk about this later. When these words were spoken, the ministers who supported Li Ku not only did not lose heart, but also had their eyes lit up. Although Li Er did not agree, he did not refuse either. His subtle attitude indicates that Li Er has not yet made a decision and is hesitant, which means there is a chance. Li Ku also looked bewildered. Isn't it about killing Turkic people? What does it have to do with my title? I don't want any titles, as long as I have no worries about food and clothing. Just as Li Ku was lost in thought, a noisy voice suddenly sounded outside the main hall. Let me in, Your Majesty. The old servant has something important to report. Li Lauer frowned when he heard the commotion outside. He shouted to the Qianyo guard outside the palace, who is shouting and screaming outside. What kind of noise is it? Unexpectedly, when Li Erii spoke up, the people outside became even more excited. Your Majesty, old slave Wang De, Empress Changsun has asked old slave to come and tell you to immediately return to her internal skills. Princess Changle fell seriously ill last night, burned all night, and now faints again, putting her life in danger. What? Please come in quickly. Li Er looked anxious. Upon hearing Li Er's urgent inquiry about Princess Changle's situation, several guards dared not stop him and allowed Wang De to enter. As soon as Wang De walked into the main hall, he fell to his knees with a thud and loudly said, Your Majesty, something has happened. Princess Lu had a fever all night last night, and all the imperial physicians have treated her since morning, but there is nothing she can do. Empress Changsun asked me to report to the emperor that Princess Changle's situation is very dangerous now. I heard that Princess Changle had such a serious illness, and both civil and military officials in the court couldn't help but worry about Li Er. What? Her situation is so bad. Li Er didn't even think about it, so he directly ordered, Duke of Zhao, Duke of Lu, and other princes, come with me. Li Er ran all the way towards the harem, only hating himself for not having two more legs. There was no more dignity as an emperor. At this moment, he was only worried about his daughter's father. At this moment, Li Er's mind was full of. Quickly. After a stick of incense, everyone arrived at the palace. Pushing open the door, Li Er walked in. I saw Princess Changle lying on the bed at the first moment, and her face was very ugly. Looking at her delicate appearance, anyone would feel sorry for her. All the imperial physicians lowered their heads and looked disheartened. Li Er couldn't help but feel the anger in his heart as he looked at the room full of imperial physicians. Angered at several imperial doctors, I have never treated you unfairly in my daily life. But why hasn't her illness improved at this critical moment? No one dared to face Li Erlongwei's anger, and one by one felt ashamed. I am incompetent, and I beg the emperor to punish me. Just as Li Er was angry, Li Ku calmly scanned the room. Empress Changsun, the empress of the Tang Dynasty, sat next to Princess Changle, and the fatigue on her face showed how much she cared about Changle. At the same time, the door opened again. Help, Your Majesty, Princess Changle is saved. An old voice came from outside the door. Li Ku looked in the direction of the sound and saw an old man with a goatee and grey hair walking in. Li Ku remembered this person according to his own memory. This old man with white eyebrows is the famous medicine king of the Tang Dynasty. Sun Simiao. Your Majesty, the princess's illness may not be a hope. Sun Simiao looked at Li Er with excitement. I have reviewed some illnesses left by my ancestors, and one of them is a case that fits Princess Changle's condition. According to what I saw in an ancient book, using the Bagua needle technique can cure Princess Changle's illness. After hearing Sun Simiao's words, Li Er's furrowed eyebrows finally relaxed. Li Er couldn't help but exclaim, "You truly deserve to be the king of medicine. It's really comforting." Upon hearing Li Er's words, Sun Simiao was momentarily stunned. He forced out a smile and said, "Your Majesty, please forgive me. I know that using the Bagua needle technique can cure Princess Changle's illness, but..." Sun Simiao paused for a moment, his face turning red and saying, "Hey, I've never even heard of it before, let alone used it." Sun Simiao's words were like a thunderbolt, completely shattering the glimmer of luck in Li Er's heart. You. Medicine King, my hope has been shattered by you." Seeing this scene, Empress Changsun, who had been persistently supporting herself, finally couldn't resist. As the Empress of the Tang Dynasty, she is well aware that she must remain calm and composed at all times, even in the face of a world-shattering and earth-shattering. In fact, she is indeed like this. Even if she suffered a great injustice, Empress Changsun would still hold this grudge in her heart and never tell Li Er. She is well aware that as an emperor, Li Er bears heavy responsibilities. As a woman, she does not want her lover to be troubled by trivial matters. But when she saw that her daughter's life was in danger, she was powerless, which made her long-suppressed emotions burst out in an instant. Empress Changsun finally lost her confidence, and the last barrier in her heart collapsed with a loud bang. Empress Changsun hugged Li Er, the usually dominant empress of the Tang Dynasty, and at this moment, she also revealed the fragility that a woman should possess. At this moment, Empress Changsun is no longer the dominant empress, but a mother who is simply worried about her own child. Empress Changsun's voice had a hint of crying. "Husband, do you think Changle really has no cure?" Seeing the woman she deeply loved so fragile, even Li Er's heart was determined, and tears couldn't help but flood his eyes. Li Er reached out and gently caressed Empress Changsun's back, saying in a gentle voice, "No, not really. How could there be no cure for Changle? She's only 14 years old. God will surely bless Changle." Li Ku stared at the weak Changle on the hospital bed, and those forgotten memories began to flood into his mind. Li Ku couldn't help but have some nostalgia. He remembers when he was young, he was looked down upon because he had half of the Sui dynasty blood flowing through his body. In this palace, only Changle's sister is genuinely kind to him. It can be said that Princess Changle always looked like a neighboring sister when Li Ku was in the most difficult situation, asking for warmth and comfort from Li Ku. Now that Princess Changle's life is in danger, Li Ku will definitely not sit idly by. Do you still want to take the throne? Dream it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Ku called out to the system and asked in his mind, "Can I use these points to purchase Bagua needle technique? Ding. It's completely possible, obtained props. Magic skill, Bagua acupuncture and moxibustion, only used once. Value. 100 dandy points, note. This is the host's first purchase, and the system will also include a copy of the Qingnang Jing, and the posthumous works of Huatuo. May I ask if the host has confirmed the purchase?" Okay. At the moment when Li Ku was certain, he felt a huge amount of information pouring into his brain. The 8 trigrams needle technique acupuncture essentials. After Li Ku thoroughly digested this complex and precise medical technique, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Nowadays, Li Ku, who is proficient in the 8 trigrams needle technique, can easily see the acupoints on each person's body at a glance. Li Er's words were all meant to appease Empress Changsun, but he was very aware that Changle's illness could not be delayed any longer. He really wanted to continue delaying it, and his daughter would really be gone. Although Li Er is the ruler of a country, he has a helpless expression on his face at this moment. He desperately cries in his heart. God, come down to the heavens to save my daughter. Just as Li Er was in a desperate situation, Li Ku suddenly spoke out, Father, I can cure my sister. Li Ku's words were like a thunderbolt, exploding in an oppressive atmosphere. Suddenly, Li Ku became the center of attention in the audience, and everyone's gaze fell on him. Changsun Wuji took the opportunity and said, King of Shu, don't be joking. There are many divine doctors here, and even Sun Simiao is helpless. How can you possibly cure them? Can Li Ku get used to Changsun Wuji? Absolutely impossible. Anyway, this time we must make Changsun Wuji lose face. Only in this way can Changsun Wuji shut up. Li Ku looked disdainfully at Changsun Wuji and directly retorted, Lord Changsun, why are you also the uncle of Changle's sister? If you don't find a way to cure Changle's sister, it's okay. You still have to speak out and refute those who can cure Changle. Just a narrow-minded person like you is worthy of being the prime minister of the Tang Dynasty. After Li Ku finished speaking, he directly ignored Sun Wuji, the prime minister, and made Changsun Wuji's old face turn pale. Li Ku looked at Li Er and said in a deep voice, I hope my father allows me to treat Sister Changle. I can guarantee that if I cannot cure her, I am willing to accept any punishment. After hesitating for a while, Li Er finally said one sentence. Forget it. Kur, just give it a try. Even if it doesn't work, father will not do anything to you. Li Ku nodded and said to Sun Simiao, Dr. Sun, can I borrow your silver needle? Sun Simiao quickly handed the medicine box on his back to Li Ku and said, King Shu, all the medical equipment you need is here. You can use it freely. Good. Li Ku nodded silently, holding a small medicine box, gestured to Li Er and Empress Changsun, it's a bit inconvenient for me to give my sister injections for treatment. Now, except for Empress Changsun and Empress Father, everyone else should leave. In theory, veteran officials such as Qing Yao Jin, Wei Qijingda, and Li Jing would not participate in the inner palace. It was also because of the sudden incident of Princess Changle that Li Er called them together. Therefore, upon hearing Li Ku's words, they quickly retreated. When the imperial physicians heard Li Ku's words, it was like seeing a life-saving straw, afraid that Li Er would blame them for walking slowly, and they ran faster one by one. Li Qingqian, Li Tai, Li Ji and others, even if they were unwilling, could only obey Li Ku's orders and retreat. Only Changsun Wuji, before leaving, gave Li Ku a meaningful glance and thought to himself, Li Ku, you have praised Haikao now. If you can't cure it later, let me see how I can cure you. Do you still want to take the throne? Dream it. There was no one else in the main hall except Li Er, Empress Changsun, and Li Ku. Li Ku took out the silver needles from the medicine box, and each needle inside was disinfected. Li Ku just started to use his needlework. At the moment he started administering the needle, Li Ku was surprised to find that a human acupoint map had automatically formed in his brain. Even more miraculously, a human meridian diagram appeared in his mind. A red dot of light appeared in front of him. Li Ku knows that this red dot is where he needs to place the needle on the acupoint. According to the mnemonic in the 8 trigrams needle technique, Li Ku knows that he needs to cast 13 silver needles. The first red dot is truly the divine court. Li Ku didn't say much, he skillfully used the needle technique and stabbed it down. The first shot, piercing towards the divine court. Although Princess Changle was still in a coma, Li Ku stabbed her body with a silver needle, indicating that Changle had undergone some changes. Princess Changle suddenly snorted, ah. The second silver needle pierced the Yangbai acupoint. The third silver needle pierced into the lower abdomen. Li Er and Empress Changsun caught a glimpse of Li Ku's movements, and at that moment, their hearts were about to jump out. At first, Li Er wanted to give it a try, but what surprised him was that every time Li Ku injected, a slight blush appeared on Changle's face. This is a sign of recovery. Empress Changsun was also pleased to see Changle's complexion getting better and better. At this moment, Empress Changsun's impression of Li Ku improved. Li Er, on the other hand, watched this scene from the side, feeling overwhelmed with emotions. Li Er looked at his third son with an incredulous expression on his face. When did Li Ku learn medical skills? As a father emperor, he has no idea at all. The more surprised Li Ku brought him, the more Li Er felt that he couldn't understand this son. Is it because Ku Er has been hiding her strength all along? Just thinking about it, Li Ku was the child he gave birth to with Yang Fei. He had the bloodline of the former Sui dynasty and suffered all kinds of grievances in the palace. However, as he grew up, he was also suppressed by the Changsun Wuji faction in the court. He saw all these things as his father, but for so many years Li Ku has been silent and nameless, making him want to help but don't know where to start. This kid is really making things difficult for him. Thinking of this, Li Er couldn't help but feel a hint of guilt towards Li Ku. This emotion grew stronger and wrapped around Li Er as a whole. This emotion made Li Er have a desire to make up for Li Ku. 009 Do you want to sleep in and not go to morning court? Do you think? You are listening at novelfull.audio. On the other hand, Li Ku carefully applied the needle without any carelessness. After all, Li Ku has admitted that Changle is his sister. Li Ku has completed 11 acupuncture and moxibustion needles so far. There are 2 more shots left. A red dot appeared in Li Ku's mind at the point where the 12th silver needle penetrated. Without any suspense, Li Ku easily completed the 12th injection. We still need 1 silver needle, we can succeed. Li Ku patiently waited for the 13 red light spots to appear. The 13th needle pierced into the Qihai acupoint. Just as he was preparing to get the injection. Suddenly, Li Ku seemed to have thought of something and stopped his movements. Is the needle placement this time in the Qihai acupoint? Li Ku's heart couldn't help but jump. Qihai is beneath her abdomen. Isn't this about Li Ku? Li Ku was caught in a dilemma for a moment. Li Er and Empress Changsun saw Li Ku stop moving, and Li Er asked in confusion, Ku Er, what happened? After thinking for a while, Li Ku finally decided to give the two an explanation. This silver needle must be pierced into the sea of Qi, this acupoint is in my sister's abdomen. Upon hearing Li Ku's words, Li Er immediately became anxious. Although Li Ku and Changle are siblings, they have both grown up. If today's story were to spread, wouldn't it be necessary Li Ku knows this matter without hesitation? The first 12 silver needles have all been made, and only this one remains. He must do it. Li Ku said, please ask the Empress to take off the outer garment for Changle's sister, and I can also give injections through the inner garment. Empress Changsun is a very open-minded person who knows the weight of her daughter's name and reputation. She took off Changle's coat without any hesitation. There is only one light and thin piece of clothing left on the body. Li Ku revealed Changle's exquisite and graceful figure through a light veil. This time, there is no room for any mistakes. Li Ku worked hard to calm himself down. Although Li Ku tried his best to control it, his hand couldn't help but tremble slightly when he applied the needle. Li Ku couldn't help but roast that he overestimated himself. It seems that I won't be able to do Yashida Hui anymore. In Li Ku's memory, he still thought that Changle was just a little girl, but today when he saw Changle, he couldn't help but sigh and say, my sister has grown up. It's only been a few years since we last met. This girl is becoming more and more beautiful. Li Ku's mood improved significantly upon this thought. Only by focusing without distractions can everything be completed smoothly. Li Ku is like this now. Li Ku successfully inserted this silver needle. As the last moment fell, Changle, who had been unconscious for a while, coughed twice and slowly woke up. She looked at the person in front of her in a daze and said, Father, Mother, what's wrong with you? And Brother Li Ku, why are you here too? Daughter, my good Changle, you have finally woken up. Do you know that you are about to scare your mother to death? Changle woke up and Li Ku pulled out all the silver needles before putting them into a box. Empress Changsun dressed Changle, but as men, Li Er and Li Ku couldn't stay in the inner room, so they walked out. Changle woke up, and a big stone in Li Er's heart also fell to the ground. Li Er smiled brightly at Li Ku at this moment and said, "Ku Er, thank you really this time. No matter what reward you want, you can tell your father the emperor." Li Er no longer had the aura of a king. At this moment, he seemed like a child, extremely happy. Upon hearing this, Li Ku immediately became interested. Li Ku gave a meaningful glance at Li Er and said, "No matter what I propose, father will always satisfy me." Seeing Li Ku's appearance, Li Er suddenly felt an ominous premonition in his heart. Does Ku Er want the position of crown prince? At this moment, Li Er really wanted to give himself a big mouth. But now it's too late to say anything, and if you say it, you won't be able to take it back, especially Li Er, who is still the leader of a country, let alone go back and forth. Li Er gritted his teeth and said, "Yes, as long as it's not excessive, father can satisfy you." Li Ku spoke up, "Can I have a Shangfang sword? It can determine the power of life and death." Li Er's face twitched when Li Ku said this, and he said, "Is that all? Is that all?" Seeing Li Er's incredulous expression on his face, Li Ku chuckled lightly and said, "Also, I hope you can grant me extra favor. I can only bow and not kneel, listen to orders but not announcements. I can wear a sword when going to court in the morning, and the most important thing is that I don't need to go to court early. I have no interest in rushing to court in the morning, I just want to stay in my Shu prince's mansion and sleep." Li Er looked at Li Ku with disappointment on his face and said, "Did you make these demands just to be lazy and lazy to bow?" Li Ku looked at Li Er's gloomy expression and asked, "Does father regret it?" Li Er. What? Li Er realized at this moment that he had given birth to a lazy bug. To be honest, looking at Li Ku's performance today, he actually hoped that Li Ku would work harder. If he could really win the position of crown prince, it would be possible to appoint Li Ku as the crown prince. I didn't expect Li Ku to be so lazy. Not to mention competing for the position of crown prince, even if he were to be granted the throne, he might not be able to catch up with the early court. Stinky kid. You want to sleep in and don't want to go to morning court, you think I just want to. Li Er helplessly said, "Okay, I'll give you everything." Li Ku expressed his gratitude and said, "Thank you very much, father." Outside. At this moment, Changsun Wuji, this cunning guy, was also overjoyed in his heart. At the court meeting today, he was insulted by Li Ku. If he didn't take the opportunity to save face, his position as prime minister would probably become a joke for everyone in the world. Changsun Wuji showed a cunning expression on his face and said to Sun Simiao beside him, "Old son, you are a divine doctor of the Tang Dynasty. I don't believe anyone except you. Can you tell me how serious Princess Changle's illness is?" Sun Simiao sighed and said, "Oh, it's hard to say. The princess's illness is very strange. I've been in the medical profession for so many years, and it's the first time I've encountered such a situation. To be honest, the princess's condition may be difficult to recover. But please rest assured, the Prime Minister. I believe the princess will definitely have her own destiny." Changsun Wuji pretended to be regretful, but in fact, he had long been overjoyed and wished for Changle to pass away in the same place. As long as Changle dies, Li Ku will definitely not escape death. Li Ku, you're really unlucky this time. I want to see how long you can be arrogant. 010, are you okay? What's wrong with you? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just when Changsun Wuji had a proud expression on his face, there was a commotion coming from inside the room. Li Er's voice came out of the room. "Is Sun Simiao still outside? Tell him to come in." Upon hearing that the emperor was going to call him, Sun Simiao adjusted his clothes slightly before pushing the door in. Outside the courtyard, Cheng Yaojin, Changsun Wuji, Li Jing, and a group of imperial physicians were left behind. Look at me, I look at you. No one knows what happened inside. In the room. As soon as he entered the room, Sun Simiao apologized to Li Er, I'm useless. I've disappointed the emperor, and I hope he can forgive me. Li Er pulled Sun Simiao up and said, Medicine King, this is not the time to worry about this. Hurry up and give Princess Changle a pulse check. Sun Simiao said, Thank you very much, Emperor. Then he walked up to Princess Changle and began to feel her pulse. Sun Simiao looked at it and felt even more incredulous. It is easy to see the complex emotions in the heart of this Tang Dynasty Medicine King from the changes in Sun Simiao's expression. Did Princess Changle really receive the favor of immortals? No, it's not a deity, it's the King of Shu. It's really the King of Shu who cured Princess Changle. Sun Simiao turned around and looked at Li Ku with a burning gaze. Speaking of which, I am truly ashamed. I have studied medicine for decades, but compared to the King of Shu, I am still far behind. I can't believe that the King of Shu's medical skills are even better than mine. Seeing Sun Simiao's expression of admiration, Li Ku felt a bit embarrassed. You should know that this person in front of you is the legendary Medicine King of the Tang Dynasty. It is not an exaggeration to say that Sun Simiao was the best physician in the Tang Dynasty. This old man lived to be over 140 years old thanks to his own medical skills. It can be seen from this how brilliant his medical skills are. However, it was this top-notch pharmacist from the Tang Dynasty who, when faced with Li Ku, showed great humility and even showed some respect. Li Ku quickly humbly said, Where and where? Dr. Sun praised me, I just know a little bit. Li Ku had a great spiritual impact on Sun Simiao, who knew that Li Ku's medical skills were definitely above him. Sun Simiao firmly said, King of Shu, I am willing to bow down and be your teacher. Please do not refuse my determination to become a teacher. As Sun Simiao spoke, he lowered his head and was about to kowtow. Not to mention Sun Simiao's position and achievements in history, it was his bearded face that Li Ku would never let him kneel down. Being worshipped by this old man may mean sacrificing one's life. No, no, no. Li Ku quickly stopped. I don't deserve it. Why don't I take you as my disciple, but there's no need for such a big gift. What do you think? Upon hearing Li Ku's agreement, Sun Simiao immediately smiled and said, Okay, as long as the King of Shu is willing to accept me as his disciple, I will be the master of everything. At this moment, Changsun Wuji outside the door had become impatient. Without waiting for Li Er to give the order, he went straight into the room. Changsun Wuji felt proud when he saw Changle lying in bed. It seemed that Changle was really not doing well. Li Ku, just wait and die. Changsun Wuji hurriedly stepped forward and looked at Li Ku with a cold expression. King of Shu, you said you could cure the princess, but now the princess is bedridden. King of Shu, have you ever thought about what a crime it would be if you lied and deceived the emperor and empress, giving them hope and disappointing them? Changsun Wuji said seriously. Before Li Ku could refute it, Sun Simiao, who had just become his disciple, became anxious. Lord Changsun is the prime minister of the current dynasty with a noble status, while I am just a physician. However, if Lord Changsun disrespects my master without asking for any reason, I apologize that Sun Simiao cannot agree. Changsun Wuji was stunned when he saw Sun Simiao suddenly become so anxious. He looked inexplicable and said, Master. What kind of master? The King of Shu is my master. What? You said your master is the King of Shu. What is this situation? Sun Lao, your medical skills in the Tang Dynasty are unmatched. Why do you worship him as your teacher? Sun Simiao said angrily, Prime Minister, be careful when you speak. I am not talented, but I have been practicing medicine for decades. According to my diagnosis of the pulse, Princess Changle's pulse is stable and can be cured within a few days of proper conditioning. If you dare to slander my master, I will make you pay the price. Changsun Wuji felt like his head was about to explode. Did Li Ku really cure Changle's illness? This. Changsun Wuji was momentarily infuriated. He was the prime minister of the Tang Dynasty, asking about high authority, but was humiliated by someone like this. It's truly shameful, shameful. What else did Changsun Wuji want to say? Empress Changsun beside her had already spoken. Brother, Changle was indeed cured by the king of Shu. Sister saw it with her own eyes. Brother, don't argue with the king of Shu anymore. If you continue to do so, don't blame sister for ignoring you. Suddenly, a strong cough came from the bed. Princess Changle is awake. Princess, princess. Sun Simiao exclaimed excitedly, the king of Shu is indeed a divine doctor. I didn't see anyone wrong. He is a genius in heaven. Empress Changsun also readily agreed, not bad, this time it's all thanks to the king of Shu. Changle is getting ready to get out of bed. Empress Changsun quickly helped her up and said in a warm voice, lie down quickly, your body is not fully healed yet. Lizzie, your fainting scared my mother to death. Fortunately, your third brother, the king of Shu, arrived in time, otherwise my mother would have lost you. As soon as he said this, Changle was stunned. Third brother. Changle seems to have thought of something. Her pretty face suddenly turned red, revealing a youthful shyness. Lizzie, are you okay? Is there something wrong with you? Empress Changsun asked with concern when she saw that her face was not right. Princess Changle was immediately suppressed by such words, suppressing her wild thoughts. It's okay, it's okay. Li Er also expressed concern, Lizzie has been unconscious and must be very tired. Let her rest well. Li Er waved his hand and dispersed the crowd. Everyone walked out of the room. Sun Simiao first praised Li Ku, saying, the medical skills of the king of Shu are the highest in history. It is a blessing for the Tang Dynasty to have such a talented person like the king of Shu. Li Er was overjoyed to hear that Sun Simiao, the most powerful medicinal king of the Tang Dynasty, praised Li Ku so much. However, he still pretended to be humble and said, where, Ku Er's level still needs improvement. We cannot be complacent, we must continue to work hard. Li Er's resolute statement made all the ministers couldn't help but roll their eyes. Is this something that needs to be provided? If even the medicine king is going to apprentice and their medical skills continue to improve, wouldn't they have to shoulder with the immortal doctors in the sky?